There's really only 5 things that you're gonna need to get started in archery. So today what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go over all the different pieces of equipment that you're gonna use on your first day of archery, and then I'm gonna explain and go through what all the different names and terminology is, so that way you have a better understanding when you get out to the archery range. So the first piece of equipment that you're going to use is something called an arm guard. In my classes, I make this an optional item if you want to use it or not. I do highly recommend this if it's your first day at archery. And the purpose of the arm guard is to protect the bow arm, okay? The arm that's going to hold the bow from getting hit with the string. So the way this works is you're just going to clip it on, okay? There's a lot of different kinds. There's short ones, there's long ones. The idea is that when you go to pull the string back, when you let go and the string comes forward, if the string ever gets too close to your arm, this is there to protect it. Now, your coach should go over with you on the first day of archery what you can do so that way you don't hit your arm. But in case your coach isn't there, they're helping somebody else for the moment, this is a nice little safety guard to have, because this will help protect your arm in case the string does hit it. Okay, so that's the first thing. The second thing that you're gonna want in archery is a finger tab, okay? Just a little piece of leather here. I have a lot of students, they actually prefer the finger glove, and that's okay also. It just depends on what kind of archery you're shooting, what your personal preference is. I actually don't use these in my first day beginner classes. And the reason why is that I start out with bows that are pretty light, and I like the archers really to get a feel of how their fingers are fitting on the string and how they're coming off the string. I find that a lot of archers that are new to archery, this is just a little bit uncomfortable, because a lot of times you have to mold the finger tab to your fingers to make it feel right. Sometimes they can't feel the string, so they're not feeling like a nice smooth release. So this is nice to have for protection if you have sensitive fingers, or if you're getting more into archery and you're going up in weight. This is great. For beginner archery, it's kind of personal preference. I personally don't use these, but a lot of people do, and a lot of people really like them just because it keeps their fingers protected on the string when they're shooting a lot of arrows. The third piece of equipment is this right here, this black piece right here. This is called your quiver. Now at your archery range, they might have ground quivers or cones where you put your arrows in, but if you have the option to try the your personal quiver out, this is awesome, because this is usually just a clip and it fits to the side of your pants, just like this, okay? And then you can keep your arrows with you at all times, so you don't lose them, you don't mix them up with anybody else's, and you have your own set of arrows. The quiver is nice because the purpose of it is just hold your arrows. So sometimes they have 1 tube, 2 tubes. So that makes it really nice when you're shooting archery to have your own personal quiver. The third piece of equipment that you're gonna be using in archery is the arrow, okay? On the arrow, there's 4 components. This is the point or the tip. Then you have the shaft of the arrow. Then right here, okay, as you can see, there are 2 green, 1 white. This is called your fletchings. 4 fletchings. You can have feather fletchings, you can have spin wing vanes if you're an Olympic archer. A lot of times in beginner classes, they'll put plastic vanes on just because these are long lasting and they're pretty durable. But if you notice with the fletchings, there's 2 with the same color, 1 that has a different color. The one with a different color, that's called your index fletching. And there is a reason for that. And when you start shooting archery, your instructor will explain why that's a different color. It's all based off of how you're gonna load it onto the string, okay? And then the last component on the arrow is right here. This is called your nock. The nock is important because the nock is what actually attaches to your bow. So when you go to shoot, you always wanna make sure you hear this sound. Okay, it's a little click noise, and that nock just attaches on the string right under the arrow. Right under the metal piece, okay? So the nock is important because the nock is what's actually attaching itself to the bow. All right, the last piece of equipment we have is the bow. On the bow, there's a couple important parts I want you to know about. Number 1, this wooden piece right here, this is called your riser. On the riser, there's 2 things that you're gonna use when you're shooting in beginner archery. Number 1 is your grip position. I'm gonna put it right here in the yellow so you can see really good. If you notice where this indent or this groove is, okay, this is your grip position. This is where you're gonna hold the bow from. Just above the grip position, you have a little black plastic piece. Okay, it goes right here. Okay, it could be white or black. Okay, this is called your arrow rest. And all that's gonna happen, you probably already guessed, is your arrow is just going to rest on top of there. All right? And the cool part is it has a little hook on there, so you don't actually have to hold your finger up to keep it in place. You can keep your finger out of the way and the arrow sits on there nice and smooth, nice and tucked in. See that? Okay. All right, so now let's move on. So this is the riser. We talked about the grip position and the arrow rest. The two black pieces, the top and the bottom, these are called your limbs. The limbs are important for a couple reasons. One, it's going to determine the height of your bow. Okay, so if you're an adult shooting at your class, you're probably going to get a 62 or 66 inch bow to get started with. This one right here is a 62 inch bow. And then the limbs are also important because it's going to determine the draw weight. It's going to help determine the weight of your bow. So like right here, these limbs, it'll say right on the bottom part right here, it should usually tell you it's a 62 inch bow and it's 20 pounds. Okay. So when I say here's a 20 pound bow, I'm not handing it to you and you're holding 20 pounds. Okay. It's just a couple pounds to hold the bow. What I'm saying is when you draw back, you're drawing and you're holding 20 pounds of draw weight. Okay. So if you get a 20 pound bow, that means you're drawing back and holding the 20 pounds of draw weight. So those are the limbs. That's going to help determine the height of it. It's going to help determine how much power is in your bow. The next piece is the string. The string is the part that you actually pull back. Okay. And on every string, there's going to be a little metal piece. Let me put that in the yellow here so you can see good. Right here, there's going to be a little metal piece. That's called your knock set. The knock set is important because that's going to tell you where to load your arrow. So every time you shoot, you're going to load the arrow under the knock set. All right, this is going to help keep it so the bow comes out straight. It's also nice too. Sometimes if you load it above, the arrow can move up and down on the string. Okay, so it kind of locks it in place. But the biggest reason for it is that the way we set up the knock set is so that way if you put it right under, everything's going to come out nice and straight. Okay, so those are all the parts all the pieces, I should say, that you're going to use on your first day of archery. You have the arm guard, you have the finger tab, and you have the quiver, you have the arrows, and you have your bow. So I hope this helps you when you go out to the archery range and you hear someone talk about the riser or the limbs or the string, and it gives you a better understanding of what they're talking about on the pieces of equipment.